Welcome to Ask the TA, a periodic segment on Holliston Hub HCAT where viewers can send questions for the town administrator and other representatives to answer for the benefit of all Holliston stakeholders. Today will be a slightly different format as I've accepted a position at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and I'm currently focused on ensuring a smooth and efficient transition of critical town projects and initiatives. For the sake of posterity, this Ask the TA will be split into two installments. The first installment will focus on the accomplishments of the past 5 years. In other words, what has been fully completed with boxes checked. The second installment will focus on ongoing projects and initiatives, many of which span numerous years before they come to fruition, as well as critical planning for future projects and initiatives. If you find this Ask the TA segment informative, please consider following up with the second installment. And if these critical Holliston projects interest you as a stakeholder, please consider getting directly involved in your local government as we rely heavily on dedicated stakeholders for many important boards and committees and other volunteer opportunities. Getting into the 5-year summary, I have a slide deck here with a few visuals to help guide the discussion. It has been a very productive 5 years. So getting into it again, the first installment here is about looking back. The second installment will be looking forward. One of the first items that happened in the last 5 years when I came to Holliston in 2020 was getting the town's bond rating upgraded from a AA+ to a AAA from S&P. A number of things were undertaken in that first year with the support of the Select Board and the Finance Committee and Town Meeting, including the creation of a pension stabilization fund to address town and school unfunded pension liabilities, whereas the town was aggressive with OPEB. That was considered to be a hit against the community, and that was addressed with support of all of those bodies. Formalization of a 5-year capital improvement plan was the expectation and is the expectation of external stakeholders, and that document was updated. I'll get into in a little bit some of the materials that have gone into creating a robust 5-year capital plan. And finally, the creation of a 5-year revenue and budget model within the annual budgeting process. It allows a resident, an external stakeholder, members of staff to understand and conceptualize where any one given budget year fits in the grand scheme of things. It allows us to have more strategic long-term planning, and these are all very important documents, and when they were put in place and finalized, the town was upgraded to a AAA bond rating, which is good for the future of borrowing projects for taxpayers in the future. Operational improvements and modernization, I have 3 categories here. It's been relatively busy in the last 5 years, and I think all of these set up for our follow-on discussion about what is to come. So 2 specific examples: the creation of the Human Resources Department prior to 2021, when that department was created here. The town focused all of its HR functions through the Treasurer Collector's Office, which does payroll. It was a common model many decades ago, and the town needed to modernize that, which we did. And if you build it, they will come. We are looking at FY26 of right-sizing how that looks. But again, we've done all of that within the existing headcount that we've had in the past, and we continue to do that with what is, a modest budget to ensure that we have, a good balance for the taxpayer benefit. Additionally, the creation of a dedicated grounds division within the Department of Public Works was a demand from various service levels within town: the parks, the schools, rail trail needs. Building up capacity within our DPW has yielded phenomenal returns for all of those stakeholders, including the many youth sports groups that use those fields, et cetera. So I think, the development of Blair Square, all of those projects, which we'll get into, really are benefited by having the internal capacity to maintain those over time. And again, the town will need to continue to look at the right service level for that area. It is a costly service area, and yet it is a service area that impacts many different stakeholders. Additionally, the second slide of operational improvements and modernization includes public safety specific initiatives. The town went through an evaluation of its fire and ambulance service with an MRI report, which is available online, as well as an evaluation of our public safety dispatch. Both of these changes are significant, and they've taken time to develop, but they are, again, a modernization of how Holliston handles these critical public safety service areas. So the town has achieved, through OAMS, which is the state office that oversees ambulance service, an ALS licensure, but it is a 3-year phase-in, and that is up from BLS, ALS standing for Advanced Life Support, BLS standing for Basic Life Support. One of the major findings within the MRI report was that the town required a assistant chief / EMS director position, which is a position that was recruited specifically for a full-time position that includes a paramedic licensure, and that individual's name is Brian Kelly, and within that, supporting Fire Chief Michael Cassidy. All of the work that was done within that that discussion has led to the upgrade in the licensure, which is phenomenal, and it will have implications for the years to come on the revenue model related to having an ALS license, the ability to provide higher level services to the community with ALS rather than BLS. And it also impacts our role within the region, as we won't be relying on our neighbors strictly for ALS. We'll be working with our neighbors for mutual aid, which is a common practice within public safety, police, fire, a number of different public safety avenues. Additionally, the transition to the Holbrook Rec for public safety dispatch was one that was recommended not only from a Collins Center review on public safety dispatch, but also within the MRI study. Continuing to dispatch for both fire in one location, police in another location was not an efficient model. It is exceptionally difficult to continue to staff dispatch in 2024, 2025. And it was a change that was necessary, made much easier by a impressive and robust state grant program called E911 or State 911, which has a 5-year process of covering our costs of entering the system, and has allowed us to make other public safety improvements by reducing costs in one area to allow us to invest in others. So significant improvements, and I hope that the community is very proud of the public safety response that it gets on the police and fire ambulance side. It has been an exceptional path forward here to ensure that those departments make our residents proud. And the third area that I'll highlight here, although there are some others, is really the economic development. The town engaged MAPC for an economic development vision and service model plan, which was finalized in February of 2023. One of the key recommendations was to have a part-time economic development coordinator or shared coordinator with another community. The town looked at various possibilities of sharing that position and ultimately decided that a part-time position in-house was the path forward. And again, throughout that economic development vision process, a lot of community development, a lot of business community development within that, and that position was created, and the first economic development coordinator was hired in October of 2023, and Melanie Hamlin, you'll see a variety of different initiatives that have been under her control since she's come on and supported the Economic Development Committee. And so to follow along with phase 2 of that process, please feel free to get involved directly with the Economic Development Committee or reach out to Melanie Hamlin. On the communication side, I think what we've seen through the strategic plan, which I'll touch on, and through just feedback from residents, it's all communication, communication, communication. That's why I continue to partner with, and I hope my successor will as well, with Holliston Hub HCAT, which is a phenomenal resource for communication from the town. We try to utilize our website. We try to utilize social media. We've started some direct mailings because of the feedback that we've received. And ultimately, the answer is we always need to continue to improve our communications. So a couple examples you see here on the screen. One on the left is the community events calendar. The town has always had a calendar on the website, but strictly for statutory reasons of posting open meeting laws, open meetings under the open meeting law. For various boards and committees. There is now another calendar directly under it that is highlighting community events, and some of those community events are under the town's umbrella. Some of them are for nonprofit organizations. So for example, as you see, Community Connection Circle, an open mic night for Holly Pride, and the Black History movie reels at the Holliston Public Library. All of those different areas may have different calendars. We're trying to consolidate them in one area so people can see. We have a process for anybody to reach out, get something on that calendar. That is on the website. That calendar is also available as you walk through Blair Square on the rail trail at the new SUFA sign. And so we think that it's going to help a lot of different users and outreach within the community and to stakeholders within Holliston and outside of Holliston who are crossing through the rail trail. Additionally, we received feedback that to really reach out to people, make sure people understood the significance of town meeting, that mailings were necessary. Mailing a large warrant document is not efficient, it's not environmentally friendly, and it is costly. So what we were able to do is find a middle ground where we will send a postcard to all the households in the community that highlights where you can find all the materials, the date of the meeting, all of the options we have for your participation in the very important legislative process that is town meeting. It is available in Spanish and Portuguese and English. It will bring you to the materials, and it will identify child care, senior preferred parking, all of the things that we're doing to try to make it more accessible to all of Holliston. And then on the right, what you see is a quarterly newsletter that is ostensibly the town administrator, soon to be town manager newsletter, and giving credit where credit is due, that has been the assistant town manager, human resources director, Kathleen Buckley. That document, we have over 1,000, I believe 1,200 people that are signed up for that. You can subscribe, so it's sent directly to your email. You can subscribe to receive updates on select board agendas or any board agenda. And so all of these are methods that have moved us forward in communications, social media additionally, but these are all processes on the path towards improving, constantly working on communications. Community life, I'll just highlight 2024 because there's so many great examples of this community over the past 5 years, but in 2024 alone, Tree City USA was awarded. That was a process that came through the Garden Club, select board support, a ton of work from our tree warden, who's our DPW director, Sean Reese, and something that the town is proud of, can be maintaining over time, and will also afford the town grant opportunities in the future, which is phenomenal. The town also had the Boston 25 Zip Trip come to town in 2024. They were at the Congregational Church next to Town Hall out there on what a lot of people refer to as the Town Green, and it was a great event, highlighted a lot of our local businesses, which was phenomenal in the intent, and I think for a lot of reasons we got them here because of our 300th anniversary, which I mentioned here as well. The parade had just happened prior to that. It was a very good culmination for our 300th, but also it's a great example of what we can do, our economic development coordinator, our communications department, of highlighting all the wonderful things about Holliston to live, work, and play. And finally, what I have here as well is the MAPC Creative Placemaking Community Art Installation in Blair Square. That was a phenomenal community process that involved so many different stakeholders looking at what that artwork should be, where it should be, and all the options. And I think that the town can really build on that as we move forward, especially along the rail trail, but also the downtown and various areas throughout town. A couple procurements. I know those sound boring, but I think these were pretty interesting in 2024. Our solid waste contract with E.L. Harvey's, as we set this up for the future, we have a moderate increase in the next couple of years for a service that is pretty difficult as you look at other communities and the cost of handling trash and recycling. And yet we do know that we've made some decisions in the past about the size of recycling cans and trash cans, and some of those decisions might need to change in the future. Those decisions were made, I believe, just prior to my coming to town, that were based on a lot of different grant availability in the market. And so what we've left here is some optionality for the future, right? We can continue on with Harvey's to maintain our costs. We can look for other options. We've left some flexibility with options in that contract, which I think is a good thing for the future, maintaining some flexibility. The municipal golf course, which is Pinecrest, has two different contracts. One is for the management of the golf course, and one is for the restaurant that operates therein, which is Anthony's on the Green. Both of those received extensions, and again, I think golf as a outcome of COVID has never been more popular, and so it's phenomenal for the community to have that resource Internally, it obviously, the revenues pay for the expenditures within that golf course, and they provide some funding to the town to acknowledge the support that Pinecrest gets from staff, including the facilities director, James Keast. And lastly, the solar project on Marshall Street at the capped landfill got delayed for almost 2 years because of challenges in the market related to Eversource and ISO New England and all these different things. But ultimately, all of that led to a change in the vendor from Sol Systems to Onyx. But it is also, if anybody has gone up there recently, that is in mobilization and will be online and ready to go within the calendar year 2025, producing electricity, connected to the grid, producing revenue for the town, all those wonderful things, and will also financially support the future of that recycling center, which can be so much more under the direction of the Deputy DPW Director, Robert Walker. One of the things that I highlighted earlier in terms of the community being upgraded to AAA bond rating from S&P was the annual 5-year CIP. This has now been updated numerous years, rolls forward to a 5-year period every year, and the FY 25 through 29 report is online for anybody who would like to get into it. A couple things that I'll highlight that go into it of why it is so robust now, where it couldn't have been 5 years ago. We completed a sidewalk prioritization plan, a roadway prioritization plan, a water system modernization plan, a dam alternatives report for all of our critical dams, the Factory Pond, which is going to be involved in a project I'll talk about shortly on Woodland Street, the Houghton Pond Dam, which people will recognize as the one behind Dunkin' Donuts, Winthrop Dam, Lake Winthrop Dam, excuse me. So we have reports on all of these, and that's why we're able to have such a robust capital plan. Additionally, as I'll talk about in the second installment about the future of the DPW facility, that feasibility study that the Select Board and the Finance Committee and Town Meeting all supported really gave us very specific planning objectives for that capital investment. Capital projects that have been completed, there are more to list than what I have here, but these are the ones that I think most people will recognize. The Green Street Municipal Parking Lot in the downtown area is going to support what will be a future Goodwill project, talked about in installment 2 of this series. Also the Exchange Street Parking Lot, which is behind Central Fire. We have options for people to come in, directly park in our downtown area, go to Goodwill Park, go to the businesses, go to the library. We have parking behind Central Fire for somebody to go to Blair Square or walk to downtown, use all the businesses along Central Street. Those are phenomenal steps forward from an economic development standpoint. The Blair Square renovation, again, brings so many people within the community, but also from outside the community through Central Street, where we have numerous businesses, Coffee Haven, Casey's, right? You can walk down Central Street for a variety of different businesses to get to downtown. And so within that Blair Square area, we also have now a pavilion for community events, which has been highly utilized. It is monitored and scheduled through the Parks Department, which has a form online. And so that Blair Square project was critical for the future of Holliston to have that area. It's where the Select Board's flag policy raises all of the flags in the downtown area, or excuse me, in the Central Street area, as we have an incredible amount of foot traffic going through that area, incredible amount of car traffic going down Central Street. The Winter Street Water Main project was completed, including 5 culverts that were involved in that. If you think of 100 culverts throughout town, that was a significant investment, and to have that complete is great for our long-term water system improvement plan. The wastewater treatment plant also received modernization through ARPA, which I'll talk about shortly. And the complete streets and the Central Street sidewalks is probably the most feedback that I've gotten from people who love the way that Central Street came out with those, are ready for some additional improvements and rebranding of that the EDC will be covering in its phase 2. The 5-year strategic plan will come up in this installment and the second installment, because it really is a looking ahead document. But getting through that process, a very intensive community-driven process, was a major accomplishment in the last 5 years, and it sets up the town as we look forward. The community engagement took place during 2022 and 2023. The first annual report of the Envisioning Future Holliston Committee is anticipated in June of 2025, which would be at the end of the first year of that 5-year period, which spans from FY 25, ending June 30th, 2025, through FY 29. You see here the 7 key priorities of the strategic plan, and also the front of the document, which is available online. 2 other things I'll highlight here that happened at the October town meeting that were major steps forward for the town and the future of the town, changes and modernization. The MBTA 3A Zoning Act, anybody can share their opinion on whether or not the town of Holliston should be considered an MBTA community. We were considered that way as an adjacent community because we are adjacent to communities with MBTA service, so think of Ashland with the commuter rail. And ultimately, our ability to get the MBTA 3A zoning passed in the October town meeting of 2024 allows the town to still be in compliance with the state and making available all of the state grants that we rely on to fund a lot of our projects to reduce the burden on taxpayers. A great example will be in the next installment as we look ahead to some of our capital projects. But again, an incredible amount of work went into this. Town meeting supported it, including some tap dancing on town meeting floor to make sure that we were crossing our T's and dotting our I's. The working group, I would just like to shout out as well, was involved a representative from the planning board, the zoning board, the select board, housing authority, housing trust, and the consultant was J.M. Goldson that worked with the town planner, Karen Sherman, and myself. Very happy to be through that process. As anybody who follows along in the media knows, there are other communities that are not as fortunate as we are to have had the support that we did. And finally, an item that was wrapped up in October of 2024 and will actually be mentioned again in installment 2 as there's more to come on this, especially with my leaving the community and having a new town manager come in. The Town Manager Act passed in October of 2024. Through the great work of the Senate President's Office and Rep. Irina DeRosa, that got through the legislative process in basically record time. It was signed by the governor on January 10th, 2025. It can take up to 18 months for some of this special legislation to actually make it through that process. And so, again, it is Chapter 405 of the Acts of 2024. The town manager position is in creation now at this point. And so I will cover in installment 2 what that implementation looks like and some of the things to keep an eye on as it relates to how it impacts ideally increasing efficiency for residents and other stakeholders. So a very important and critical step forward for the town with the Town Manager Act, and it's going to very much impact the quality of the applicant that the town is going to see in the upcoming town manager search, which is set to put a final candidate in front of the select board in early to mid-April 2025. So really a very important step forward for the town, but one that most likely has additional steps forward to continue to modernize and streamline our government model for the end user, for the resident, for the stakeholders. So in conclusion of this particular installment, I would just like to mention again that I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to work with such incredible people in this town. And so I hope that you enjoyed this installment. Thank you for watching Ask the TEA on Holliston Hub HCAT. I hope you found this review of the last 5 years to be informative. And I think if you would please continue or consider watching the second installment, we will be covering all of the projects that are still underway, that are looking ahead, and an incredible amount of work still to do, an incredible amount of work that's been completed. And I thank you for watching, and I thank you for your support.